t-shirt, brand new today, present from my mum and dad. That and a Han and Chewie's whiskey t-shirt as well. I'm 37 years old, you know, and yet I'm giddy over the fact that my mum and dad have bought me a t-shirt. How sad is that? Oh, I'm getting reflection. Sorry guys and girls, let me just knock that down, and then we won't get a reflection. Right, I'm getting a bit bored of doing Scotch, to be honest, so I'm going to switch things up a little bit. I've still got a couple of Highlands left to go, but I'm just going to switch things around a little bit just to try something different and unusual, and yeah, just done a lot of Scotch, so let's try some other things. So I'm going to do two tonight. Date today, God, I've forgotten what date it is. Thursday the 19th, 20th, not the 20th, 19th of May. So I'm going to do two tonight, one of which will be a Scotch, which is a very unusual Scotch. But the first one I'm going to do, I've not taken the tape off, so I'll get this away from the microphone so it doesn't make too much noise. This was a donation from Charlie Kavai, who is an ex-whisky shop employee like myself, and a thoroughly very nice bloke on Facebook. Never met the guy, might never will, probably never will, whatever, but seems like a thoroughly nice bloke on Facebook, and sent me this along with a couple of samples. So this is Georgia Moon corn whiskey. It looks like this, comes in a mason jar, looks very classy, as I think you'll agree. So this is essentially marketed as moonshine. It's 40%, but they even state on the label, and it's, you know, going for that moonshine market in terms of it's in a mason jar, it looks handwritten, the paper label's a bit raggedy, it's all that kind of thing. But it states quite clearly on the label it is aged for less than 30 days. It's less than 30 days old. So it's essentially new make, but it's 40%, so it's been diluted down to that because at cask strength it's going to be more than 40%. Now, corn whiskey, I've not had many straight corn whiskey, so this is going to be quite interesting because reading up on it, it's kind of, corn is used as kind of flavouring, but it's mainly kind of barley, obviously, in Scotch. Barley and rye are the two that give you the flavours because corn on its own is normally quite sweet. Now, if I've had a corn whiskey, I honestly can't remember it, so I'm really intrigued to see what this turns out like. Essentially tonight I'm going to do a black and a white. I'm going to do black and white, and I'm going to do black and white for my next round as well, simply because I was just, what am I going to do? I can't be bothered to do Scotch, let's see what I've got. The next whiskey I'm going to do I literally got yesterday from Maltman Mike, so I'll give you a sneak preview. So this is the Georgia Moon corn whiskey, and this is what we're going to have next. So black and white, and then I've got some other black and whites in some frame or another. So yeah, so I thought, what the hell, we'll go with this because it's crystal clear. There's nothing in it. It'd be intriguing to see what corn whiskey's like. Now I can't find that much information in terms of the company behind it and the history behind it. On the labelling, it talks about Johnson's Distilling, the Johnson Distilling Company in Bardstown, Kentucky, which is here, or is it Bardstown? Probably Bardstown, Kentucky. Anyway, this is where it is in relation to the majority of the United States. Master of Malt, the Georgia Moon page for it is actually logged under Heaven Hill. So I'm wondering whether Heaven Hill own this as a brand, because if you put Johnston Distilling Company into Google, nothing comes up. There is a guy back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, but I don't think he has anything to do with this particularly. So I really couldn't find any history about the actual company itself. So my guess is it's a brand of a bigger company that's kind of keeping it quiet as terms of, you know, who actually owns it and where it's being made and everything like that. So let's crack on with this, because basically the two whiskies that I'm going to be having tonight are about as far removed from a standard whiskey as you can get, and are either going to be very, very interesting or bloody awful. So let's see what this is like. It's very weird pouring out a very, very clear thing. Now obviously I've had the new make of King's Barnes, which was a totally different beast and was like 60%, 61% or something like that. This being 40%, it'd be very interesting to see what this is like with it being, I mean, it's like water. It's just, the colour, nothing. So, I mean, it's very spirity. The trouble is, when you look at the packaging, when you look at the, it's in this mason jar with a sort of printed handwritten label, you've already got this expectation of it's going to taste rough. It's probably going to taste crap. And the nose doesn't really help, because if it's been put into a cask, it's been put into probably a virgin oak cask for a couple of weeks, pretty much, and then diluted down, and it's really spirity, but it's like a generic spirit. To be honest, it's more like vodka. It smells more like a vodka than a whiskey, but there is quite a sweetness to it. It's not an artificial sweetness either, it's a natural sweetness, and it's very cane sugar. It's not unpleasant, to be perfectly honest, it's just quite harsh because it's so pure. I wouldn't have said this is 40%, I'd have said this is probably a bit stronger, because it really gets the back of your nose. Not bitingly so, but it's there's a definite kind of edge to what's the back of your nose. But it's not unpleasant, and it's not a bad sweetness, but like I say, it's quite a kind of cane sugary, almost a syrupy sugar solution, that sort of smell to it. Here we go. It's very sweet. Considering the edge that was on the nose, it's not really there on the palate at all. It's really very, very smooth indeed. There's not a great deal of flavour to it. And I'm wondering whether that's me subconsciously going, there's no colour, it looks like water, therefore it's not going to have any flavour. I'm almost unconsciously expecting there not to be any flavour, and therefore I'm not actually picking that much up. So let's give it another go. It's not rough. It's not rough. You look at the bottle, you look at that mason jar, you think this is going to be rough as anything, and it's really not. It's really actually surprisingly smooth. The sweetness is not cloying, but it's not too far off. Again, it's like a sugar solution. There's not a great deal else. There's a little bit of a, it's not a woodiness, it's almost a, difficult to describe. It's kind of plastic, like licking a bit of a Tupperware pop or something like that. It's very, very difficult to describe. It's a really unusual flavour, but it's an odd sweetness to it. It's not unpleasant, to be perfectly honest. I don't know what you drink, how you drink it, what you do with it. To be honest, it's probably not that bad chilled. If you stuck that in the freezer, it would probably go with mixers. You could probably get away with, it wouldn't go with tonic, but almost using this as like a vodka substitute. You're looking at about 20-25 quid a bottle, which isn't that bad. Although, how much is a bottle of vodka nowadays? 12 quid, 15 quid for a litre, something like that. So it's unusual, certainly. If I got given it as a present, having tried it, I wouldn't actually be that upset. It's not really a sit down and a drink and a chill out and enjoy. It's not got enough to it. It's more of a novelty, to be perfectly honest. Oh, what is that flavour? There's a weird, it's not quite grassy, it's not quite hay, but it's that sort of feel that I'm getting. It's unusual flavour. To be honest, the closest that I've come to this before is the Threeland German whiskey, where, was it German? Yes, German rye. It was a German rye whiskey, and that was really, really intense, kind of concentrated cut grass and hay. This isn't as intense, it's not as concentrated, but it's got slight elements of that odd concentration of grass and hay and that sort of feel to it. It's alright, it's weird. It's gonna I can imagine a lot of people aren't going to like that, but it's nowhere near as rough or like spirity, alcohol-y, like kind of meths type vibe that the packaging and the look of it give it that impression that it's going to be. It's okay. It's interesting. I'm not sure I'd buy a bottle of it, to be perfectly honest. It's almost worth kind of, you know, taking to a party and getting people to try it, or do it on a whiskey tasting. You know, that would really kind of put the cat among the pigeons in terms of if you were doing a blind whiskey tasting and you did that early on, you could probably get away with that as your first one. That would really throw a lot of people. But yeah, very interesting. Charlie, thank you very much for the donation. Fascinating to have. Very unusual. I wonder whether it's going to be as unusual as the next one I'm going to have, but we shall find out shortly. See you in the next one. Cheers.